Ladies and gentlemen, Viakim Royster-Weary. Give it up for Viakim.
I was 4 years old, sitting under my mother's ironing board as she ironed sheets, curtains, and bedspreads. It was so nice and cozy up under there, all nice. I was playing with my dolls, and then one day, I realized I wanted a sister. Well, the neighborhood where I lived, Burwood, Wyoming, off of 8 Mile Road, where the infamous wall was that separated the neighborhoods, were a bunch of kids. I mean, a lot. You would think it was a schoolyard. I mean, boys, girls, brothers, sisters playing. We were playing, had mud pies. We had just hopscotch, and the boys was throwing rocks, and they were just running, playing just relay races, all kind of things. And the sisters would skip along, holding hands, going to Mrs. Bright's house to get their hair pressed and curled. But I had to go all by myself because I didn't have nobody, no sister. And then Mrs. Bright would say after the end of the day, somebody come walk this child home because she came all by herself. I'm like, okay. About a month later, because I remember it was summertime, my mother brought this little girl in, and she was about 5 years old. She said, "This is Felicia Korn, and now she's your sister." I was like, "Sister?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, I got a sister." So we became fast friends, but we became sisters. We were so tight. We were laughing and playing with our dolls and eating mayo sandwiches, liverwurst and cheese, and potted meat and crackers in the backyard. We thought that was the greatest thing. We had such a fun time. It was like a pajama party every night. Then one day, Mom brought in this big, huge suitcase. And she began to put Felicia's dolls in there, and her clothes, and her shoes, and her books, and all her belongings and things. And Mother said, she said, "Well, Felicia's being adopted out." I said, "Adopted out? What does that mean? Does that mean I'm gonna be next?" Well, that never happened. But me and Felicia, we cried. It was so sad. I was crying every day and every night, and I thought I was like Miss Celia on Color Purple. Me and you would never part, ooh, ooh, ah, ah. But Felicia was gone, and she called every day, and she called, and the calls became few and far between until the calls finally stopped. No sister. Well, about 5 years later, my mother came and she sat me down and she says, "Here is your sister." I said, "Sister? This is DeWine Brown." I'm like, "DeWine Brown, but she's 17 years old." Well, my mother was 17 years old when she had a baby, and it was unwed back in the 50s. So they decided to give her to a distant relative, Auntie Pearl, who lived in New Orleans, Louisiana, and she lived there and she raised her up until she was a teenager because she had a lot of teenage drama. I mean, skipping school, bad grades, and of course, the boys, and staying out late. Well, Auntie Pearl couldn't take it no more, so she sent her back to Detroit. And I was like a fly on the wall because she had a lot of teen drama, a lot of this and that and everything. And of course, she was doing the same thing she did there, she did here. I mean, the grades were not good, staying out late, just that boys. And so I just like watched. And then she finally fell in love, graduated high school, and then she moved on. But we never had a sisterly bond. We never talked or anything like that. It was always the drama about her. And I was like, okay, But at the same time, my mother had a baby, and his name was Martin. And he was 8 years younger than me. And he's doing typical boy stuff, getting all in my stuff, you know, ruining my records and all my everything. But he wasn't a sister. And I was like, I really want a sister. Okay, well, anyway, it was 1980. Cass Technical High School. I graduated. I was like, hey! I was happy. And my father, Henry Royster, was the very first African-American black man to work in the Highway Roads Transportation Department. And he woke up one morning, he said, like, you need a summer job. I said, a summer job? So next thing I knew, I was in the CETA program, picking up paper along the highway, painting fences. And that's when I met Denise. Denise was a talker. All she did was talk, 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 talk. Oh, she talking, talking, talking. I was like, oh, Lord, what's she going to talk about today? Well, she started talking about a sorority. I'm like, a sorority? What's that? She said, it's a sisterhood. I was like, sisterhood? Ooh, tell me more. So she would talk every day. It was founded by 22 women in 1913 at Howard University, and academic excellence, scholarship and service, community outreach, and all these wonderful things. And we support each other, we love each other, we help each other, and we celebrate each other. And I was like, I want that, I want that. So Grand Valley State University, small university, but big on sisterhood. All of 9 members at the time. And I crossed over with this one young lady. Her name was Delary Sanderson. I'll never forget. And we became fast friends, sisters. And we were so close. As sisters, we became roommates, even with our boyfriends. But anyway, you know, graduation came, and she moved on, and I moved on. But I met the love of my life, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. His name was Willie A. Weary, and we had our children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and we lived a beautiful family life. Well, years went by, and in 2009, my father went home to be with the Lord. He had a heart attack. But who did I call? Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. They was there for me. They came and they helped me navigate the system, and especially when my mother started displaying signs of Alzheimer's and dementia. And it was a long, slow decline, but those sisters was there for me, helping me, guiding me through the court system, through everything. And then my mother made her transition, and it was very hard for me. And so I just was like, what else could happen? But those sisters was there for me. My sister, DeWine Brown, she did pass away in 2016. We talked, but we weren't really that close. My husband passed away in 2017, and then my mother passed away in 2018 of the Alzheimer's and dementia. 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm cancer-free now, so those sisters, yes, that showed up for me was part of my job. It was like, I am a Sister Locks consultant, brand ambassador, and trainer, and those sisters found out that I was down. They was there for me. They was like, They made sure I got to my treatments. They made sure I went to my doctor's appointments. They made sure everything was good. And this one of them brought me vegan, plant-based food every single day for 4 months. Honey, I was healed, healthy, and whole. But of course, back to business as usual. And I still wanted a sister. Way down deep in my solar plexus, I was like, I want a sister. And then sometimes you know what you got to do? Let go and let God. That's exactly what I did. 2020, my brother called me up and he says, "Did you see what happened on Facebook?" I said, "What happened on Facebook?" He said, "You know that picture I posted of Dad in the military with that hat and the rosy cheeks, and he was holding the trumpet, and he was the picture with the Army." I was like, "Yeah, I remember that picture." He said, "Some lady DM'd him and said, 'Look, that's my daddy, and that's the same picture, and I can say that that's my dad.'" I was like, "Get out of here. No way. I couldn't believe it." I said, "Well, did you call the lady up?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, you gonna call her?" He said, "Yeah, I'll get around to it." I said, "Did she leave a contact information?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'll get to that next week." I said, "Next week?" Well, my brother's a truck driver, so he's on the road, drives from state to state, so I can kind of see where he, couldn't really do a real good down deep investigation. So I said, "Well, let me take the wheel on this one." So he gave me her number. I called her up, and we had a great conversation. And I asked her, I said, "So, okay, well, tell me about this here picture you say you claim that's your father." And she said, "Yes, my mother in 1998 told me that the man that I thought was my father is not my father, and my father's real name is Henry Royster, and she got a picture to prove it." I'm like, "A picture?" I said, "Okay, well, I want to see the picture." So she went, her mother told her where the picture was at. It was in this envelope, in a drawer, to the left, down at the bottom, under a book, you know how we do. So she went and got the picture, and I said, "Well, I want to see the picture." So she screenshot the picture. She took the picture, screenshot to me. I took the picture, shot it to my brother. We looked at the picture on the front and on the back, and on the back was my daddy. Handwriting, it was undeniable. That was Henry H. Royster right there on that picture. I was like, wow. I said, so tell me, how did you connect the picture with us? How did you find us? She says, "Well, I knew he was in the military. He was in Fort Bragg, and Fort Bragg is in North Carolina, and the U.S. Army base is really large in the U.S., but it's the largest military base in the world. It spans over 250 miles." Okay, so her mother was in Fayetteville, and Daddy was at Fort Bragg. So I imagined this whirlwind romance and this wonderful relationship. Ooh. Well, anyway, she was born, her name is Dorsina Patterson, and she was born in 1952. So she said that she began looking for records. She started looking for names and places, and she was calling and calling. Well, back then, they only had MCI, Ameritech, Ma Bell, and AT&T was starting to get on the rise. So that bill started racking up because not only did they charge you by the area, they charge you also by the minute. And those bills start getting up. So she dropped the ball. She picked up the ball, and this happened over a span of some years. There was no Facebook at that time, no TikTok, no Twitter. It was none of that social media, no IG. So she continued her search, and so her children were growing up, and they was like, "Well, Mama, what are you doing?" She said, "Well, I'm trying to find my biological father." So one of her sons decided to do Ancestry.com. So my brother had the Ancestry.com, and then the dots were connected. They had a name, so they started looking and looking and looking, and by one day, by a fluke, they saw the picture on Facebook. So we began talking, and we started looking at connecting places and things and people and all those things like that. And she invited me down to her 70th birthday. It was in 2022. So I went to her birthday celebration, I got on that plane and I was like, wow, I'm going down here to find out about a sister that I have. Oh my goodness, I got off that plane, it was 90-degree weather, and I rented a car and I drove down to Rockingham, North Carolina. It's about 2 or 3 hours, and I went to her house, and you know how we do, look, I'm outside. So she said, okay. She came outside, and I looked, and I was like, what? And it was amazing. It was like she stepped out, all 4'11" feet of her. I was like, my granddaddy like 4'11". I was like, So I looked at her face, I was like, look at that bridge across her nose. Look at her nose. Oh, her cheeks. Look at that chin. Oh, she a Royster. Yes, she is. She a Royster. And I looked at her kids. I was like, oh, my God, they look like my kids. And so we hugged, and we was so happy. We cried. And I told her that when I was a baby, I was celebrated because I was the first female Royster for generations in our family. And I gave her the grace. I said, now you should be celebrated because actually you were the first female in the Royster generation for over some like 3 or 4 decades. And so we had a wonderful birthday celebration at a hall. I met all her children. She has 3 boys and a girl. And I met her other siblings that she had and her community of family and friends and her church family. It was wonderful. The next day, we had the biggest celebration because it was a backyard, down home party, right? With all the food and the games and the music. It was so fun. I enjoyed myself. That was the best celebration I ever went to. And when it was time for me to leave, we vowed with a pinky swear that we will always be there for each other. And we always call each other every single day. And I invited her over here just last summer in 2023 to my celebration of 4th of July. And she came and stayed a week. And I took her to the Veterans Memorial Cemetery where I introduced her to my dad, our dad. And she made peace because she had a lot of questions. And she still have a lot of questions that will never, ever be answered because we're never going to know really what happened. So family, if you have somebody out there, go and look. Do your due diligence. Find out who these people are, who could be a family member to you, because family is so important. You know how we say, Harambe, pull the power down. Pull the power down from our families. Pull the power down so that we can get our community back. We have been looking and searching for family for years. And we have an opportunity because now we have technology and things like that. So I just want to say, who would have thought that my 4-year-old self would manifest a real sister out of all this time and all this space and all this love and heartfelt love that a sister found sister. And my brother called me just yesterday talking about, did you see what happened on Facebook? Thank you.
All right, give it up again for Viakim Royster-Weary, who found her sister